Did you know that retained primitive reflexes can have a huge impact on the way our brain and our bodies process sensory information?
Hi there, welcome to the Harkla YouTube channel. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jessica. We are the Certified Occupational Therapy Assistants with Harkla, and today we're going to talk about the connection between primitive reflexes and sensory processing.
Understanding this connection between retained primitive reflexes and multisensory processing can help us unlock some of those challenges that are stubborn in behavior, emotional regulation, self-regulation, and learning skills.
Yeah, so first we need to talk about what primitive reflexes are, and then we'll dive into what multisensory processing is. So primitive reflexes, we are all born with them. They help infants thrive and develop and meet developmental milestones. But the kicker is that primitive reflexes should integrate as the baby and the toddler grow and makes way for higher level learning and higher level motor patterns to develop.
So if these reflexes are retained or they're not integrated on that typical timeline, then we can often see challenges later on in life, in adulthood even, in the areas of executive functioning, anxiety, ADHD, self-regulation, motor coordination, learning challenges. The list goes on and on.
Now, we have dedicated a lot of our videos to primitive reflexes, so if you'd like to learn more, definitely go through our library of videos to learn more about these primitive reflexes, the specific ones that we specialize in, and how you can help your child. Next, we need to talk about multisensory processing.
Now, multisensory processing really just refers to processing and modulating input from multiple senses simultaneously. So you think about your traditional 5 senses, we actually have 3 more hidden senses: your vestibular, your proprioceptive, and your interoceptive system. Now, what we need to do is make sure that the brain and the body are coordinating the input from these senses simultaneously in a smooth and coordinated fashion.
Most, if not all, of the activities that we do on a daily basis require good multisensory processing. Things like driving a car, cooking a meal. Some of our children's activities would be like playing on a playground or learning a new skill in the classroom. These really require us to have good multisensory processing so we can process and modulate a variety of different types of sensory input all at the same time to produce what we call an adaptive response, which is really our brain creating new neural pathways so that we can successfully get through our day. Okay, so now, what is the connection?
So when we are connecting primitive reflex integration with sensory integration, we have to keep in mind when an infant has sensory stimuli provided, they hear something, they feel something, something touches them, they have to respond to that stimuli, and that is where those primitive reflexes help them have that appropriate adaptive response.
So we often get the question of, should I work on primitive reflexes first or should I work on sensory processing first? And my response is always, we're going to work on them simultaneously, because anytime you're working on primitive reflex integration, the body is moving and you're doing coordinated movements with your body, which means that you're also receiving sensory input at the same time. Simultaneously, like Rachel mentioned with the infant, anytime we're receiving sensory input, it can often stimulate that retained primitive reflex if it hasn't been fully integrated. So we really see this huge connection with like the clients that we work with, where it's not just sensory processing and it's not just primitive reflex integration. What we see is a combination of those two challenges at the same time.
So if you think about that beautiful image that is the pyramid of learning, we've got the central nervous system on the very bottom, we've got primitive reflex integration, and then sensory processing and sensory integration. So those two, it's not really like a what came first, the chicken or the egg, it's really we have to make sure both are integrating together in order for the child to be able to complete those higher level learning skills, those academic skills, those hand-eye coordination, the balance tasks, all of those skills that are required for successful academic learning.
Yeah. Now, Rachel found a really good research article that we are going to link in the description, and it's got a lot of technical kind of...
It's definitely not layman's terms.
No, it's very jargony. So we're going to summarize just one piece of it for you here really quick.
So really the summary of the article is that vestibular stimulation and primitive reflex development have a direct connection with multisensory processing, which is really why we're here today talking to you about multisensory processing and primitive reflex integration.
Now let's give you a couple of examples of how these two areas connect to each other. And the first example is a child who is in the classroom setting and they are really struggling to focus and attend. Maybe they are distracted by loud noises. When the bell rings, they cover their ears and they have an overreaction to that bell ringing. This is actually going to be a combination of retained primitive reflexes, likely the Moro reflex, and an over-responsive sensory system, specifically the auditory sensory system. So you can really see that connection in a child who is struggling in the classroom.
Yeah, and generally if you can integrate that Moro reflex, you'll see improvements in their sensory processing abilities as well. It kind of takes them out of that primitive brain functioning or that fight or flight state. Now, adults can experience these lingering effects from retained primitive reflexes as well. They can struggle in social settings. They can struggle with driving and driving safely, and they can struggle with adapting to new environments. And some of those new experiences, or even just adapting to change and routine, can be really hard when we have retained primitive reflexes and when we struggle with multisensory processing.
Now, the good news is that it's never too late to work on retained primitive reflexes and sensory processing. The brain is very flexible and elastic, so we can always work to create those new neural pathways in the brain to integrate primitive reflexes and improve someone's ability to process sensory input, whether they are a child or maybe our age or even older.
Now, this is exactly why we created our Balanced Brain program. It's a 10-week program designed to walk you through these multisensory processing activities, these primitive reflex integration activities to help get that brain out of fight or flight, get it into a more organized, coordinated state.
Now, this program is designed for children ages 6 and up, and when you take a look at this program, we'll link it below, you will see that it is a digital program, a digital course with video demonstrations, but you also get the physical workbook as well when you purchase the program.
So we're going to share today our 3 favorite activities from this program that you can try and you can implement today.
The first one that we're going to share with you is Superman ball pass behind the back. It's a very wordy name, but really this activity is going to target the TLR, the tonic labyrinthine reflex.
Another mouthful.
Another mouthful. And what you're going to do is position in the Superman position, which is laying on your stomach. Arms and legs are extended out in front of you. Hold a small ball in one hand, and you're going to pass it behind your back to the other hand, pass it in front of you to your starting hand, and go in kind of this circle. Now, the trick here is that you want to include a metronome, and you can get a metronome on Amazon if you want to have one, or you can just use a free app like on Spotify or YouTube. Set the metronome to 60 beats per minute and try passing the ball between your hands on every single beat.
Now, it's fast and it's difficult because you have to be holding that prone extension against gravity, passing that ball back and forth. If you want to take it one step further, which we teach you in the course, we give you level up activities, we give you level down activities, but if you want to make it a little bit more challenging, you can put a visual chart up on the wall, and while you're doing that pass around your back, you can read a visual chart, let's say that has letters on it, so you can read the letters with the metronome while coordinating your arms, passing that ball back and forth.
Good luck.
So you're processing a lot of input simultaneously. You're integrating or working towards integrating your tonic labyrinthine reflex. You're working on your ocular motor skills. So really you can see we're gonna make a lot of progress if we practice this daily.
Yes. The second activity is head turns while in a crawling position with 2 visual charts. So you're going to be on your hands and your knees in that crawling position, and we want to focus on making sure we have good form in this position. So our knees are under our hips and our feet are resting on the floor. Our hands are under our shoulders. We have flat, open hands. We don't want our fingers to be curled, and we're relaxed, but we're in a good stable position. We're going to put 2 visual charts up, one on the left side of us and one on the right side of us at about eye level. And when you turn your head, you want to make sure that one ear is pointed towards the floor and the other ear is pointed towards the ceiling. And as you turn your head from left to right to read the items on the 2 visual charts, you're going to try to coordinate with this with the metronome as well. We do this on kind of like a 3-beat count. So you turn your head to read the chart on 1 beat, look down the middle on the second beat, and then turn your head to the other chart on the third beat. And you continue in this pattern, trying to stay on beat, keeping that good hands and knees position. This is a really tricky activity.
And this one's great though because it works on integrating the ATNR, or the asymmetrical tonic neck reflex. And this reflex is directly connected to potentially ADHD, left-right confusion, and some other learning challenges. It can make reading really difficult when this reflex is retained. So this is a good one to practice if maybe you struggle with ADHD symptoms, or maybe your child does and you're concerned about that. You can work on integrating that ATNR with this activity and, you know, change it up to make it successful. If you need to slow down the metronome or take the metronome out completely, you can. But again, we teach you these level ups and level downs within the program.
The third activity we're going to share with you is a supine activity. So supine is when we are laying on our back. And this is our supine flexion toe taps with visual charts. It sounds complicated. It's another wordy one, but let's talk it out. So laying on your back, you are going to cross your arms over your chest or relax them on your body. You're going to lift your legs up so that your hips, your knees are bent or flexed, and you're going to lift your head up off the ground. So you're in what we call a supine flexion position. And then you do need a partner for this one, ideally. You're gonna have
a partner or a wall. You can do it by yourself. If you put the visuals, we're gonna put some charts maybe on the wall.
So we're gonna put the charts on the wall. One chart is gonna be at the level of your feet so that you can reach out with your toes to tap it. And the other one is gonna be maybe a foot or two above that chart. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna alternate between reading the chart with your feet and tapping each item with your feet, and then reading the chart above that first chart.
Yes. Now it makes so much more sense because we do include the visual charts that you'll need for this activity within the program. So the chart by your feet has 4 large colored dots, and then the chart on the wall is basically like a page in a book we're gonna read, but it has a bunch of those smaller colored dots that match the bigger colored dots. So you're gonna read the top chart with the small colored dots, and then as you read the dot, you're gonna tap the coordinating colored dot with your toe.
Thank you for explaining it better.
I knew what you were saying, but you know, it can be difficult to really conceptualize when you can't see it in front of you. But it's a really great one to, again, work on the Moro reflex, to work on that flexion side of the tonic labyrinthine reflex. Great for ocular motor skills, great for impulse control, and just coordination in general.
Yes. Now, these activities include the metronome. We like to coordinate them with that metronome so we have an auditory component happening. But if you're trying them with your child or your clients and they just can't quite get it, turn the metronome off and focus on coordinating the motor actions of the activity without that metronome.
So go ahead and try these activities, and when you do, tag us on Instagram at All Things Sensory Podcast or at Harkla_family. We'd love to see you trying these activities. Let us know how they go.
If you liked this video, if you found it helpful, make sure you let us know by clicking the like button and subscribing to our YouTube channel.
Make sure you check out the full program. We'll link it in the description of this video. It's a good one. It is just absolutely so fantastic. I'm a little biased, but it's tools and resources and research that we have used throughout our entire career, and these activities we've implemented for years now, and they are awesome.
Make sure you listen to our podcast, All Things Sensory. We are on YouTube. You can check out our YouTube channel, but we're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
If you are a parent and you are concerned with your child's primitive reflexes, ADHD, anxiety, any of the things we discussed today, make sure you rule it out and you get an occupational therapy evaluation. Find a professional who is trained in sensory integration, primitive reflex integration, who can help you one-on-one, hands-on with your child.
And with that, we will see you for another video next week.
Okay, bye. Why is it so hard?
Often stimulate the reflex.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.